to me.
Perfect.
We're going to be talking about Sleepy Hollow with Orlando Jones today. He plays Frank Irving, a very big moniker to be labeled with. How did it feel coming into kind of a show with that name?
I think cool. I mean, obviously, the Washington Irving part of my name wasn't lost on me. I don't know if I knew, or we know exactly what that means in terms of where it's going. But it's kind of cool. I mean, I've always been a Washington Irving fan. So.
Well, it's the one name that kind of jumps out besides Ichabod Crane. You're like, oh, but we don't know if he's a hero or a villain yet. He kind of is ambiguous.
That is the fun of it.
Have they told you yet?
I am well aware.
You are well aware.
I am well aware. Yeah.
So do you know your entire season story arc yet?
I know years of my story arc.
Wow.
The guys, I have to say, are really good about that. Chris Morrissey, Philip Kaufman. Mark Goffman really had like a 6-7 year Bible, if not longer.
And you stole the Bible?
Why wouldn't I? Who's gonna convict me for stealing a Bible? This is America. Yeah, I have. They kind of really walked me through it in a lot of detail, and that was surprising because most, when you're doing television, that doesn't often happen.
Yeah, they like you to be a blank slate, and then they kind of read it piece by piece.
Right. So this is definitely not that way. They, are very inviting into the process of it, but I kind of like to see what they're doing rather than, trying to control it. So it's a good fit, but it's a lot of fun.
So what did you think when you first got the script for Sleepy Hollow? What struck you?
Wow. My first thought was, really?
It's a pretty outrageous little show.
It is, but it was so big. I was like, really? Are we going to be able to pull this off? I guess was my first thought. And then, well, that's not true. That was my second thought. My first thought was, this is awesome. I really loved the idea that the war between good and evil began with the Revolutionary War and was back. And in some ways even predates the Revolutionary War. I really liked the idea of the Book of Revelations and the two witnesses being a part of it. And I liked how funny it was. So I guess I was struck by the fact that the show didn't have a genre on paper. I was like, well, it's not a 1 hour, it's not a half hour. And when they said it was going to be Kirsten Morrissey and Lynn Meisen was directing, I was like, oh wow, okay.
This is going to be exciting, huh?
This is kind of fun. And when they decided they wanted me, that's always nice. It's like getting a kiss at the end of a date. I'm like, oh man, you like me, I like you too. I'm like, oh. So it's been a lot of fun, but I think also the cast, not to speak for everybody, but to speak for everybody, I think we all were surprised that it came together the way it did, and I think we sort of are pinching ourselves that we get to do this every day. I don't think any of us saw that coming. It's crazy.
Well, there seems to be an appetite kind of for these kind of shows. They're genre-based, but they're a little bit fantasy at the same time, and they're just kind of fun.
Sure.
Television should be about fun, and we see a lot of darkness right now. So you're kind of on one of the funnest shows on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we never thought of any of the trappings of it. I know, Tom wasn't thinking about that. Nicole certainly wasn't. I think we were all just trying to figure out, what's our dance together along with Katya to make it really fun. And we thought, well, if it's sort of, I think Bob and Alice were like, it's National Treasure-ish,
a little bit.
Kind of Da Vinci Code, but that's too dark. A little moment to that, but really just silly and fun. And I have to say, Nicole really, Abby is the anchor.
Isn't that kind of amazing, though? She's the shortest little thing. She's a badass cop.
Yeah.
And she really kind of balances well between being a disbeliever and a believer at the same time.
Very much so. Very much so. She is the clothesline. And, Tom and I talk about it all the time, that really without her, the show doesn't work. She allows him to sort of, be the British actor who's very flippant about everything, and allows me to hold the premise and what she's saying, what he's saying under scrutiny a lot as I slowly get sucked into it.
Well, do you think Frank is a believer at this point, or is he kind of still hedging his bets a little bit?
Oh, no, I'm not a believer at all.
No?
Not in, well, there are real problems, I think, that exist for anybody. I can't go tell my boss that a headless horseman's running around killing people. That's just not. Unless you want to get fired. And I think, it is always difficult when you're in a scenario wherein, people are going to be predisposed to disbelieve you. And I think that's a difficult position for anybody. I think everybody works in a company and feels like they see certain things they can fix, but you can't say anything. And I kind of like the fact that I think, trapped in the same way that I believe a lot of people are trapped, wherein they want to do good, they want to help, they want to move forward, but frankly they can't because the politics of the dynamic stop them from being able to do what their heart wants to do.
What exactly is Frank thinking about Ichabod at this point? He can't think he's a complete nutcase. He's relying on him a little bit too much.
It's not that I think he's a nutcase, as much as there's a real difference between somebody getting their head cut off and a guy with no head doing it. O.J. Simpson cut somebody's head off. God rest their soul. I mean, what a horrible tragedy. But when you think about that, trying to explain the unexplainable, I think, is really where his head is. And thus far, Ichabod and Abby have presented him with the most information, but they haven't presented him with any proof. So I think he's like, you're doing good, but...
It seems like he's kind of hedging his bets. He figures, hey, this guy might come across as a lunatic to a lot of people, but on the other hand, he's providing such useful information, maybe we'll use him.
Well, right now, he hasn't been useful in the evidentiary side of my life. He's been useful to Abby. So I am only interested in him as it relates to Abby. And I'm not Abby's mentor. I'm not interested in that way yet in her. I'm really sort of just looking from afar, trying to answer the questions.
We also have a sense that perhaps Frank is also the keeper of the secrets. Maybe he doesn't believe all the secrets, but he kind of holds the cards and he doesn't want everybody dabbling in all these things.
I think more than anything, Frank is a pragmatist, and he's very much a realist. And I think what is real to Frank is what he can see. And I think that's true of anybody. So I think that's really where he's holding ground. So I don't know if the supernatural part is what he doesn't believe. I think maybe what he doesn't believe is that, how do I put this without giving anything away? I think it's one thing for a guy to show up and say, I'm Jesus. And even if you're a believer, you go, look, I believe. You're Jesus? Really? Come on. So I think that's where he is. Those two aren't mutually exclusive ideas. One can have faith, but still not believe that this person who just showed up, 3 weeks ago is Jesus. And I think that's exactly where he is. He's like, I don't know if you Jesus, and I don't know if you Mary Magdalene, but I'll tell you this much. You bring some proof over here.
Well, we also haven't quite seen Frank in the mix of everything yet. A lot of these supernatural stuff's been going on around him, but he hasn't been in the thick of it yet. Exactly. Are we going to get to start to see him kind of interacting with those elements soon?
That is a great question I can't answer.
So hopefully.
That is a great question. What I can tell you is that 2 episodes so far? Oh man.
So much to come, isn't there?
It really is insane. And when I say insane, it is so much fun. But we're in setup right now. It's just getting bigger. So it's not going to disappoint.
What do you think would be one of the things that's upcoming that fans should really be watchful for? What exciting things can they anticipate?
My favorite thing that I can tell you, because there's lots of stuff I think that's really cool, is I was really surprised at the idea of learning who the Headless Horseman was before he became headless. I thought that was really cool. Just going back to the time when he had a head and he was just a regular person, and getting a glimpse into what might have happened for him to be the person, the creature that we know him to be now. We cover that, and I believe it's in the next episode.
Ooh.
And that's kind of cool.
So there's backstory to the headless guy.
Nothing is left on the table. Everything goes back to be explained. That's part of what I love about this show. Everything is held under a microscope, and everything is explained.
Well, it feels like they're kind of in triage at this point. So much is happening so quickly that they don't have time to really think about it. But are they going to start developing a strategy to kind of anticipate some of this craziness?
I think, that's probably going to happen at some point.
Okay.
Because it has to. But, as of now, we're in episode 2, and I think we're still introducing people into the ideas of, somebody who came from the past and the present, and also what supernatural elements come with it. So I think we're still in the mythology really, to a large degree.
When you get a new script, do you guys kind of sit down and go, oh my God, this is Christmas, what are we going to do this week?
Right now, the shooting of it is where we live. The show is so big. It's literally like you're on a movie set every day, which is amazing. But there's no sit down time. You know, we're 16 hours a day, 6 days a week.
So no table reads, huh?
No, I mean,
it's all action.
When you're doing 85, generally we do a 96-hour work week.
Geez,
so
you guys
a
are putting everything in
96-hour work week, there's really no time to do anything except the doing of it. But you know, we obviously talk to each other. I spoke to Mark Hoffman today. I spoke to Heather, who actually is the writer of our next episode. So there's a lot of communication between everybody. And in my experience, I've never really had that happen before, where literally I know all of the writers. We talk to each other, and we're there in North Carolina, and they're here. But it does require us to talk a lot, just so everybody's always on the same page.
Well, what would you say is like your favorite thing about this particular character?
My favorite thing about Frank, I think, is how close he plays his cards to his chest. I really like that about him.
Is it like an extra layer that you put into the character a little bit?
Yeah, I think for me, you know, creating a character is always interesting because I always wonder, well, what's their secret?
Yeah.
I mean, I think with all characters, you know, everybody has something that they're hiding and they don't let people know. And everybody has a way they want people to look at them. And so I think, you know, I have a very clear sense of how he wants people to see him. And I think I have beginning to develop a very clear sense of how he reacts to certain things. So I really like those elements of him as a character, and I really like the fact that he's not in a box. I love that he's not her mentor.
He's unexpected and go anywhere.
He can go anywhere, and so I never know how he's going to react to something, so I really like that element of it. I really like the fact that he sort of is, he's mercurial.
Okay, assuming he gets a supernatural encounter at some point, what's going to be the weapon of choice for him?
I think that the first thing he would do as a pragmatist is do a reality check.
Is what I'm seeing really there?
Yeah. You know, so to me, if you shoot it and it's still alive, that's amazing. Because I think there's a difference between seeing something and going, oh wow, that's crazy. But we've all seen optical illusions, we've all seen magic, so that doesn't make it real.
Right.
Real is when you do something truly insane, set it on fire or whatever, and it's still alive, it's still there. So I think, at least I'm hoping, that I get to test it. My first encounter, I want to test.
I don't know, I can kind of see him being kind of out of the box in the way he grabs his weapons too. He's going to go, okay, I've seen the guns don't work before, I'm going to get something else.
Yeah, I definitely don't want that. Like, I don't want to shoot him. I don't want to do that.
I think he'd be going, give me a grenade, give me a grenade.
Yeah, I want him to go boom. I want, you know
He's
what
like,
I mean?
let's take care of the problem.
Exactly. Like, let's wipe it out. Let's, you know, because I think that's a real test.
Well, one of the things they showed us in this last episode was this scene where they showed the jail cell, and we couldn't see the supernatural entity. We just saw a body kind of behaving in unnatural ways. Mm-hmm. So right now, Frank can't even see what's going on because even video cameras aren't capturing it.
Exactly.
So he's just thinking, that was a freaky, weird incident.
Well, totally, and that's even true of Headless. Headless is visible to some people and not visible to others. So I think that's part of, you know, what's so interesting about the town of Sleepy Hollow, is that I'm not from there. I'm from Manhattan. So Sleepy Hollow in and of itself has all of these secrets and all of these different covens. People are either on one side or another. But I'm so alien to all of it that I feel like I get to look at it with a much clearer set of eyes. Ichabod is actually back in the town that he was already in. And Abby is in the town where she grew up. So everybody's really localized, whereas I'm not, and I really like that element a lot.
So he's the outside observer.
Yeah, I like the fact that this show has multiple fishes out of water.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ichabod's out of water, I'm out of water, Abby's out of water, her sister's out of water. I mean, literally everybody's out of water because these elements are coming to us. And depending on what side they're on, they have a very specific point of view. Or even, you know, as we've seen with John Cho's character, you know, he's serving a very, very difficult demon.
I thought for sure he wasn't coming back, and then I saw him in the second episode, I'm like, uh-oh, they're doing something interesting here.
Nobody.
That's reassuring.
Nobody dies.
Nobody dies. Not permanently.
Nobody died. Well, look, if you're a regular person, you could probably die. But in this show, who's to say who's regular and who's to say who's not?
Okay, and wrapping up, what would you say is the one word that best describes this show?
Awesome.
Just awesome.
It's awesome.
Is that just you going, I love this show so much?
It is. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. You don't ever get to do a television show like this. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I like Once Upon a Time, and I really like Grimm, and I really like those shows for their fantastical nature. But I don't think they hold their premise under the same level of scrutiny, and I don't think they're funny.
Yeah.
So for me, this is truly kind of a groundbreaking idea, and that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for today's interview.
Thank you.